And we're back now at Sunday Housecall. The FDA taking some action after a string of deadly foodborne illnesses. Comes after the food poisoning cases that included an outbreak of salmonella that was linked to cucumbers. 2 people died, and it sent hundreds to the hospitals. Dr. Siegel, man, when you hear about this, you really get scared about the food. What happened with the cucumbers?
Well, the cucumbers were imported from Mexico, and there's really been no way to regulate that. That's one of the problems we're having, border problems. The Food Safety Modernization Act of 2011 was supposed to help with that. The FDA is now finally bringing forward some rules that are supposed to help, where you identify a hazard for processed and packaged foods and anything imported, like these cucumbers. The problem is, Eric, it's very expensive to do that. It takes about $13,000 for one plant to look for hazards, to figure out why they're happening, why the bacteria is getting in there, to identify it, to go on a Sherlock Holmes type expedition. And there's a question of whether the manufacturers are going to really comply with this. 48 million people get sick from their food every year in the United States. 48 million. And a lot of times it's this bug salmonella that you see in cucumbers. Now, most of the time, I want to reassure people, you get better on your own. You don't even need antibiotics if you can watch out for the dehydration that occurs, the fever, the diarrhea. But there were 3,000 deaths a year with this, and so we really have to be careful. The FDA is trying to clamp down on this. It's trying to get the plants to govern themselves. It's trying to clamp down on those imports. I'm dubious about whether they'll be...
You go to the supermarket, you see a little sticker. Sometimes it says, you know, from Mexico or from Costa Rica or someplace else. Should you only buy what's grown in the United States, maybe?
Well, no, that's not the answer. Yeah. Unfortunately, you don't have much control over this. And this modernization safety for food that went into effect in 2011, I'm not so much optimistic about this because it hasn't been working. And the reason is because our food chain system is so complex. We get 15% of our food, Eric, from other countries. Over 300,000 facilities outside are sending our food. And if you think that by just this guideline, you're able to stop the bad food to come in. You have retailers, you have farmers, you have transporters, but the bottom line is you should be in charge of your own food. So what do? We've talked about this. Wash your hands and clean your fruits, vegetables thoroughly. Don't mix meat with fruits. Make sure you keep them separate and invest in a good food thermometer at home. Make sure you cook your food, your meat to 140 degrees, your poultry to 160, and don't leave them out for 2 hours. That's when these bugs, salmonellas and others, will get in and refrigerate them. That's what you can do.
Quickly, thanks for that. But Dr. Marc, a lot of people are growing their own vegetables. Any suggestions there? How do you keep that bug out of your homegrown stuff?
Well, first of all, cross-contamination is the biggest risk. So if you're barbecuing and people are still barbecuing, keep the produce away from the meat. Wash your hands before and after. And again, if you're using packaged foods, because that's where the problem is. The FDA, for the very first time, by the way, is trying to get at this now, even with that law. They're trying to get at this. But again, I agree with David. The chances are that policing it isn't the answer. Home use and being very careful, washing as many times as possible, not mixing raw food with cooked food, not mixing vegetables with
Marc,
meat.
The FDA is responsible to really do a better job.
Absolutely.
128,000 hospitalizations.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
That's ridiculous. 48 million people get sick every year from foodborne disease.
To David's point, by the way, I want to add, to David's point, they're only saying that they can get at 2.5 million cases, period. So what about the other 46 million that are getting sick? Even these rules, at best, are not getting really at the problem.
A lot of reason is because it involves many different countries and government of those countries, and this is politics, which
hard to get some
is
sort
very
of
much
worldwide
involved.
regulation.
Yes, it's not just about your food. But those 4 things that we talked about, Eric, are simple things you can do for audience to really keep their food clean.
Again,
organic.
Yes or no? What if I grow it myself?
You have time to grow your own. You don't even have time to sleep.
What do you grow your own? You grow your own vegetables?
And I'm supposed to tell your mom, hi, Mom.
Arthel,
she's going to start like making her own vegetables.
Arthel, let me make sure I answer this question. Growing your own,
red pepper
growing
in the
your own
backyard.
food, salmonella and a lot of these bacteria, they come from animals. Okay, so they're getting contaminated in the processing plant. When you grow your own vegetables, you're not likely to contaminate it with salmonella. Okay. So grow at home your cucumbers.
That's the answer I was looking for.
I had some great grown at home up in Maine.
Last time you did it, we ended up with Legionella in the water.
I, by the way, suck at growing any vegetables, so I don't do it, but a lot of people do. That's why I asked.
Okay, then we'll come to your home for shopping.